Morning, everybody. It's great to be in the spotlight. I'm going to talk to you this morning about doctor emigration. You probably know that Ireland has a really strong tradition of doctor emigration, but what you may not know is how many doctors we lose every year relative to the number that we train. So this slide contains 684 dots, and this is how many doctors Ireland graduated in 2014. So each of these dots represents a doctor, represents about 4 or 5 years medical training. It represents a significant investment on behalf of the doctor, on behalf of their family, and on behalf of the state in educating them. So now I'm going to take away the number of doctors that emigrated in 2014. So in 2014, we lost 627 doctors to emigration. That's how significant our current rates of doctor emigration are. We're almost losing them as fast as we can train them. But it's not just the newly qualified doctors that leave. Doctors these days are leaving at every stage of their career, some straight after internship, some midway through their postgrad medical training, some at the end of their postgrad medical training for fellowship, and some are resigning consultant posts in the Irish health system in order to emigrate. So the next question, I suppose, is where they're going. Irish trained doctors as highly qualified English-speaking doctors are in demand globally. The doctors who left in 2014 went to the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And some of those countries we're probably more familiar with our doctors going to than others. We have a long tradition of doctors going to the UK and the US for fellowship and perhaps returning from those countries. Since the recession in 2008, Australia has also emerged as a really significant destination for Irish-trained doctors. In the last 3 years, we lost 300 doctors per year to Australia. So remember that we graduate just shy of 700. 300 a year are going to one destination country, Australia. So it's really important to understand why people are going to Australia, and most importantly, whether they plan to return and whether they do return home from Australia. So I went to Australia last year and interviewed 51 of those Irish-trained doctors who had emigrated to Australia. Only 16 planned to return. So I'm going to tell you the story now of one of those doctors. This doctor moved to Australia in 2011 after finishing their intern year. During their intern year, they worked long working hours, and they spoke about the difference between, between day and night for the intern. By day as an intern, they had a lot of tasks to complete, but none were too demanding. They were taking bloods, putting in lines, chasing x-rays. By night, as an intern, they felt that they were, and I quote, dropped in at the deep end. They were left with too little supervision and too much responsibility. So they explain how that played out during their intern year, and bear in mind that this is their first year working in their chosen profession of medicine. And I quote, "I really did enjoy it in the beginning. For the first month, I was really enjoying it. By the end of the year, I just didn't want to work for the HSE again." The doctor spoke about tensions between different teams at work and a work atmosphere that was often very stressed and quite adversarial. And since moving to Australia, things are quite different. They enjoy a much greater level of flexibility in terms of their working hours, a much better working work-life balance, but it's really the difference in the work environment that stands out for me anyway. As they explain, the hospitals are better resourced here. They're not as stretched, which impacts on everything. When people are less stressed, they're not fighting over the same limited resources, it's not as adversarial. So this doctor actually does plan to return to Ireland in the next few years, but they're not really relishing the prospect of that return. And I quote, "I'm not enthusiastic. I keep hoping that things will come good at home. Professionally, there's just no appeal for me at all going back. It's totally about going back to be close to family, to be close to friends." So doctor emigration has traditionally benefited the Irish health system, and this is a really good thing, except that I think it's lulled us into a false sense of security. We presume that doctor emigration is always going to work for Ireland, no matter how many doctors leave or how few doctors return back to work in the Irish health system. So my research has highlighted the problem with regards to doctor emigration, but I think it also points to the solution, or part of the solution. I think the solutions lie in valuing our doctors and valuing the contribution that they can make to the Irish health system. I think that we need to listen very carefully to the reasons that they've left and the reasons that they're staying away. And I think we need to start addressing those reasons for leaving and those reasons for staying away if we want to improve retention and encourage return. I think if we don't, we risk being left with a health system that won't be able to provide us with the care that we need at the point at which we need it. Thank you.